Somewhere in the world tonight, a person will lie awake thinking about someone they met 3 weeks ago. They will replay one sentence, one glance, one small moment that meant nothing to anyone else. You have probably been that person, and you probably called it love, but your brain was never doing what you thought it was doing. What happened to you was not a feeling. It was a system, an old one, a survival mechanism. Your brain runs the way it runs hunger and thirst, built long before anyone thought to write a poem about it. Start with the moment itself. You meet someone. Within seconds, before you have learned their name, your brain has already made a decision. Your pupils widen. Your heart speeds up. Your hands go cold. That is not romance. That is adrenaline. Your body is preparing for something it treats as important, and it does not stop to explain itself. Then the second wave arrives. Dopamine. Not a pleasure chemical exactly, but a wanting chemical. The thing that tells your brain to go back, again and again, for the thing that felt good. Helen Fisher, an anthropologist who spent decades studying this, put people who had just fallen in love inside a brain scanner and showed them a photograph of the person they wanted. She expected the emotional centers to light up. Instead, the scanner lit up in the ventral tegmental area, a cluster of cells deep in the base of the brain, the same region that activates in someone craving a drug. So what did she conclude? That romantic love is not an emotion at all. It is a drive. Emotions come and go. Drives push you until they are satisfied. Hunger is a drive. Thirst is a drive. And so, apparently, is that person you cannot stop thinking about. Which explains something uncomfortable: why you check your phone every 4 minutes. Why a single unanswered message can rearrange your entire afternoon. In the 1990s, an Italian researcher named Donatella Marziti tested the blood of people in the earliest stage of love. She was looking at serotonin, a chemical linked to mood and control. Their levels had dropped by about 40%. The only other group with numbers that low were people diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder. For a few months, the chemistry of new love looks almost identical to the chemistry of an intrusive thought you cannot switch off. Then it fades, and people panic when it fades. But it was always meant to fade. That intensity is expensive. Your brain cannot run it forever, and it does not need to, because by then it has usually finished its actual job. Here is the twist. The obsession was never about the other person. It was about attention. Your ancestors raised children who stayed helpless for years. A human infant cannot walk, cannot feed itself, cannot survive alone for a decade or more. That required two adults to stay near each other far longer than most mammals bother to. So evolution did not invent devotion. It invented a chemical spike strong enough to hold two people in the same place while something slower could grow underneath it. That slower thing is oxytocin. Attachment. The quiet version. It is less exciting. It is also the part that lasts. Now look at what your body does without asking you. In a study at the University of Bern, Klaus Wedekind gave women worn shirts to smell and asked which ones they preferred. The pattern was consistent. They chose men whose immune system genes were most different from their own. They were not choosing a scent. They were choosing genetic variety for a child that did not exist yet. Nobody in that room knew that was happening. That is the point. And yet none of this is the whole story. Arthur Aaron, a psychologist at Stony Brook, wanted to know whether closeness could be built rather than found. He put strangers in a room and had them ask each other 36 increasingly personal questions, then hold eye contact in silence. Many of them left feeling profoundly close. Some stayed in touch. At least one pair married. The ingredient was not chemistry. It was escalating vulnerability, offered in both directions. Which means love is not only something that happens to you. So think about what you are actually doing when you fall. You are running ancient software on a modern life. A system tuned for small groups and short lifespans, now applied to dating apps, long distance, and 40-year marriages it was never designed for. That is why it feels like too much. Because it is too much. Deliberately. Your brain floods the moment on purpose, because a system built for survival cannot afford to be subtle. But the flood is only the beginning. What you build after it is yours. So the next time it happens, you will know what is actually moving. Not fate, not luck. A system doing exactly what it was built to do. And knowing that does not make it smaller. It makes it honest. So here is the question worth sitting with. Was it the flood that mattered to you, or what came after it? Think about the person you would answer that with. Tell me below.